Hey there, Mr. Sutton here, bringing you the IM3 Honors 4-6 Part 2 homework solutions on quadratic inequalities.
To graph this inequality, we're going to get the vertex of the parabola. So that'll be negative b over 2a, since this is in standard form. So we have negative 4 over 2 times the invisible 1 here for the a value. That's 4 over 2, which is 2. To get the y value of the vertex, let's plug that back into the original. So we have 2 squared, which is 4. 4 minus 8 is going to give us negative 4. Negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3. So then our vertex is 2 comma negative 3. And we're going to graph that using, since we have no equals in the inequality, we're going to use an open dot. So open dot on 2 comma negative 3 right there. Now for another point, I'm going to use the y-intercept. That's this constant of plus 1 right here in the original. So 0 comma 1 is our y-intercept, and that is all the way up here. And then using symmetry, we have an axis of symmetry going through the vertex. Since our y-intercept is 2 away in this direction, we're going to go 2 in the other direction to get a symmetrical point there. And now we have 3 points to draw the parabola. We'll use a dashed line because we have open dots. And then since our inequality is less than, y is less than, that means we shade everything below the parabola, like so. To graph this inequality, let's start with our vertex, negative b over 2a. So that's going to be negative 4 over 2 times the negative 1 for the a value. Negative 4 over negative 2 is going to be positive 2. And to get the y value of our vertex, let's plug that back into this original expression. So out front, this is a 4, but we have a negative in front, so negative 4. Negative 4 plus 8 gives us positive 4. And then positive 4 minus 7 is negative 3. So we have a vertex of 2 comma negative 3. For the dot, we have an equals under the inequality, so that's a solid dot at 2 comma negative 3 right there. And for another point, I'm going to use the y-intercept. That's this constant negative 7. So 0 comma negative 7 is our y-intercept. So that's down here. And to get one more point, I'm going to use symmetry. The axis of symmetry goes through the vertex. So to get another dot, I just have to flip this y-intercept over that axis of symmetry and get a mirror point over here. So that's going to be a solid line going through my solid dots. There's my parabola. Now for the inequality, it's y is less than, so that means I'm going to shade all the y values below the parabola like so. For this problem, trying to graph this quadratic inequality, let me start with the vertex formula, negative b over 2a. So that's negative 6 over 2 times negative 3. That's positive 6 over negative 6, which is negative 1. Plugging that back in to get the y value from the original, we've got negative 1 squared is 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. Negative 3 plus 6 is going to give us positive 3, and positive 3 minus 4 gives us negative 1. So our vertex then, we have negative 1 comma negative 1. Okay, so I'm going to be using, since I have no equals under the inequality, that's going to be open dots. So we have an open dot at negative 1, right about there. And then I can graph the y-intercept as well. That's this constant negative 4. So 0 comma negative 4 is my y-intercept. And that is right there. And now using symmetry, let me just move to the other side of the vertex at the same height to get a third point. I'll use a dashed line through those open dots. Since my inequality is y greater than, I'm going to shade all the y values above the parabola. To graph this one, let me start by getting the vertex. So negative b over 2a, that's going to be negative 8, because that's our b value there, over 2 times the a value, negative 2. Negative 8 over negative 4 is going to give us positive 2. And then if I plug that back into the original, that'll help me get my y value. So 2 squared is 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. We have negative 8 plus 16 is positive 8. Positive 8 minus 11 is negative 3. So our vertex is 2 comma negative 3. And since my inequality has equals, that's going to be a solid dot at 2 comma negative 3 right there. Now I can also graph the y-intercept. That's this constant negative 11, so 0 comma negative 11 specifically for a point, and that's a solid dot down here on the y-axis at negative 11. And then using symmetry, let me just move to the other side of the vertex and graph my symmetrical point right there. Using a solid line through my solid dots, I can draw the parabola, but this is an inequality. Since this is y less than, that means I'm going to be shading everything below the parabola like so. To graph this inequality, let me get my vertex. So negative b over 2a, that's going to be negative 8 over 2 times positive 2 for the a value. So that's positive 8 over positive 4, which is 2. Plugging that back into the original to get my y value out of this. This is going to be, let's see, 2 squared is 4 times 2 is 8. We have 8 minus 16, that's negative 8. Negative 8 plus 12 gives us positive 4. So 2 comma 4 then is my vertex. Since there's no equals in my inequality, I'm going to use open dots and a dashed line. So 2 comma 4, there's my vertex. Let me put a point there. And then for the y-intercept, I'll also get another point. So that's going to be this 12 constant right there, that c value. That gives me 0 comma 12 for the y-intercept, and that's all the way up here. And then using symmetry, I can graph a symmetrical point on the other side of the vertex right here. Using a dashed line through those open dots gives me a parabola shape. And my inequality says y is less than. Less than means I have to shade underneath the parabola. For this quadratic inequality, since this is its standard form, let's get the vertex using negative b over 2a. So that's negative 4 over 2 times positive 2. That's going to be positive 4 over positive 4, so that's just 1. Plugging that back in to get the y value, we've got 1 squared is 1 times 2 is 2. 2 minus 4 is going to give us negative 2. Negative 2 plus this 5 here gives us 3. So we have the vertex 1 comma 3. And since this is equals under my inequality, that's going to be solid dots and a solid line. So 1 comma 3, there's our vertex. And then for the y-intercept, that's going to be this plus 5 constant. So 0 comma 5, that gives me another point to graph. That's up here. And then using symmetry, I can mirror that point on the other side of the vertex, so right there. Using a solid line to go through my solid dots gives me a parabola shape. And since my inequality says y is greater than all this stuff, that means I'm going to be shading above the parabola, like so.